these new recruits.
While the Panthers women's basketball team lost on Tuesday night, the real story for the team was Kyla Nelson making her return to the court after being diagnosed with cancer in October. ESPN reporter Holly Rowe, a cancer survivor, surprised Nelson before the game, offering her words of encouragement. This inspirational story extends beyond the play on the court, and Panther fans should be proud of Nelson and her fight. We discuss that and more on this week's Hail to Pitt podcast.
What was your message about finishing it in these final 30 minutes?
Well, it happened in West Virginia where we knocked off number 2. It happened in South Carolina, and it's happening in Pittsburgh today. Our guys had a lot of guts tonight. We're just going to keep getting better. I mean, that's what it is.
One hell of a game that you will never, ever forget. We shocked the world!
Hail to Pitt.
Hail to Pitt! Yeah, baby! We're back. This is the week of December 21st, and this is the Hail to Pitt podcast. I'm Alan.
I'm Vince.
And I'm Pam.
It's that time of year where we stop our obsession with the 18 to 22-year-old college students and focus our attention on the 17 and 18-year-old high school students. Time to talk some recruiting. The early National Signing Day was this week, and we are here to discuss who picked which hat and what the new class of Panthers brings to the table. Vince, this is basically all you today because this is what you live for.
Yeah, this is an exciting time. A bunch of new players. It's like Christmas. You're opening up a bunch of presents here, and hopefully down the line, these kids can really deliver some victories to the Panthers, which at the end of the day, that's what we're all after.
So today we're going to talk about who signed, who sent the fax in to Pat Narduzzi and had him putting out the Pat signals this week. We'll break them down. We'll also talk about, as Pam mentioned at the top, a super, super awesome moment for Pitt women's basketball, and Pitt men's basketball is doing well. I saw Coach Capel at the Apple store. He looked all right. It's been a great week, Pam.
Yeah, it really has. Even though the Pitt women's team lost, like I alluded to in the open, some inspirational stories happening. Got some new Panthers in with commitments. That's always good to get some new players here.
Yes. New blood to talk about, and of course, the bowl game coming up. We will have a special edition of the podcast where we talk solely about the bowl game, the Quick Lane Bowl against Eastern Michigan. That's coming at you early next week, just in time for the holidays, and it'll be out earlier than normal just so everyone can sink their teeth into that episode before the bowl game. Just a programming note there for you, but we are on social media. If you want to communicate with us that way, at H2P Show on Twitter and Instagram. The Hail to Pitt podcast Gmail is crack-a-lackin' too, right, Pam? That's Hail, the number 2, Pitt podcast at gmail.com. I got that right, right? Nice. All right. I'm 2 for 2. And then what about this? You asked for it, and now you get it. The new Hail to Pitt podcast, Panther Line. Is that what we want to call it, Vince? The Panther Line?
That's a good name for it.
The Panther Line. Or what about the H2P line? I don't know. It's a dang old phone number. And it's a voicemail for you to either get on the show or ask a question or make a comment for us to talk about on the show. And that number is 412-407-3387. I did not take the time to look at the lettering behind those numbers yet, Pam. I'm sure we could come up with something interesting than other than just saying the numbers. But for now, it's 412-407-3387. I'm expecting a lot of people calling in, and please, when you call in, make sure you close out saying Hail to Pitt. I don't think I need to tell anybody that, though, right, Pam?
No, it's mandatory for your voicemail to be even considered to be on the show.
Exactly. That's 412-407-3387, and hopefully we'll be airing some of your calls on the show and reacting to them, and that could go into, our segments where we read about what people are talking about online with regards to Pitt, and now we can maybe hear directly from you on the voicemail. We had some people asking us to open one up, and there you have it, 412-407-3387. 3387. Of course, we love interacting with people on Reddit and on Panther Lair as well. We are everywhere. And we were definitely reading all the comments on these players we're going to talk about this week. A lot of people have either inside info, extreme opinions. I mean, recruiting season's always fun, so we're going to get into it in a moment. Just remember, though, we are brought to you by Pretty Easy Podcasts. Go to prettyeasypodcasts.com to start your own podcast today with your own personal producer at your beck and call, helping you do your show your way. That's prettyeasypodcasts.com. Real quick pieces of news, Vince, to get out of the road before we get to all these new recruits. Jalen Twyman, second team All-America. That feels good to have a Pitt Panther, at least on one of those teams. Not first team, but that's pretty good.
Yeah, for only a sophomore season there, that's rather impressive for Mr. Twyman.
It is, and it's going to be a crazy season for him next year because he's going to go into that one with even greater expectations. And dare I say it, a lot of people, I mean, they already are, but the Aaron Donald comparisons, Pam, you got to imagine are going to be off the chain next year for Jalen Twyman.
Oh, yeah, it's going to get some national attention as well. I mean, a little bit when ESPN was here for the Thursday night game, but it's just going to keep growing, and especially if the two guys work out again this offseason together.
And maybe he won't be doing Pizza Hut commercials just yet with Aaron Donald, Vince, but maybe the two could hook up for like an Angelia's or Vocelli's commercial or something going into the next season. Oh, no, wait, he's not allowed to do that. He'll be allowed to do that, though. Is that a violation with new rules?
They haven't been in place. Let's keep him away from any commercial activity. We need him on the field.
I don't know about advertisements, but I'll say this. He's definitely not allowed to get paid for it. But, yeah, you got to think come next season on those preseason Nagurski Award, Bednarik Award, all those kind of awards that Aaron Donald won. You got to think he's going to be on the short list.
Congratulations to Jalen Twyman, second team All-American. That was awesome. Great year for the D-line. Hopefully they close it out the right way in that bowl game. Other quick piece of news, former running back, 4-star recruit. Was it ever Michael or Mikal? I mean, I've heard it pronounced both ways. You never know, especially with players who never get on the field. I never know how to pronounce their name until they actually play, Vince. But Salahuddin is with North Carolina A&T.
Yeah, how about that? Good wireless college. That is.
It's A&T. I was joking, but I don't know what the A&T stand for. It's
Agricultural and Technical College.
That's actually. If I bought that school, though, then I could own it because those are my initials. So there you go.
There you go.
Congratulations to Mr. Salahuddin getting back out there playing some college ball.
Yeah, that's a little. He didn't have some very nice things to say whenever he was out the door. A kid that had a lot of promise, but for whatever reason, did not get on the field. I know he had some injuries, and then it just buried on the depth chart. It's unfortunate.
I mean,
we'll move on.
How is he going to beat out Pitt's great running backs this year? A lot of sarcasm there, kind of disparaging.
Yeah, and our silence indicated that too.
Kind of bashing the running backs there, but that's not their fault. Pitt never ran the ball this year. But yeah, you're right, Vince. Let's move on and talk about maybe some potential actual great Pitt running backs, or at least running back that they landed, waiting on one more. Early signing period. Overall, it felt like, I would say, if reading online comments at least, and seeing national reviews, Pitt did all right, but could have done better, some people said. I know personally, I'm just excited that they got the Westinghouse defensive end. Huge get, Dayon Hayes. That's the one that stood out to me the most. Always pumped whenever you recruit in your own backyard.
Yeah, a 4-star player, regarded as one of the number 3 player in the state of Pennsylvania by Rivals.com. This kid, an excellent size, 6'3", 250 pounds, recruited by a lot of big-time schools, Ohio State, Penn State, Texas A&M, Virginia Tech, Michigan State, just to name a few. But yeah, like you said, Alan, always good to get the top player in the state, Pam, and also a kid that could kind of replenish that defensive line whenever eventually there's going to be some of those guys graduating that good defensive line that we have. And this kid sounds like he'll be able to fill right in.
Yeah, he led Westinghouse to one of its first in a very long time City League titles this year. So it's good to see a kid that also knows how to win and can be a leader on a team, and definitely will be a position of need there. Probably one of the top players in this class that they got.
I mean, the one that stood out to me the most, just because of, anytime you get a D lineman that size with that pedigree, and they are from, the city, you got to be hyped for that as a Pitt Panther fan. Who stood out to you, Pam?
The person that stood out to me is Javonte Royal, a defensive back from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, 4 stars, and from the high school powerhouse of St. Thomas Aquinas High School there in Florida. A lot of great players have come from that high school. We've talked about in the past or even off air about Pitt recruiting in Florida and how that's become a big priority. And I think Javonte Royal really fits in what Narduzzi wants to do. We saw this year how Narduzzi's defense can work. He's a bigger defensive back, 6'3" already. He had offers from Georgia, Florida, Florida State, Penn State, and Ohio State right there on the board. So I'm looking for him to be a contributor right away and see how he can fit into Narduzzi's defense.
And you think, Vince, that Javonte Royal will come into the program as a corner or a safety? Because I saw mixed reactions, people saying a lot of these DBs that they landed are going to be safety prospects more so than corners.
Well, Coach Narduzzi likes those big corners, guys with good length. So it'll be interesting to see. You got Dane Jackson is going to be, he's graduated. You got DeMar Hamlin is graduated. So, not that he's going to jump in and really compete for a starting job, but there's going to be some reserve spots where there may be some unprovenness that Javonte Royal could jump in there, and maybe you could see him starting or not starting, but contributing right away, hopefully.
And we'll get back to some of the DBs there, Vince, in a second, but I've been waiting to hear who was the one that you're most excited for in terms of early signing period that Pitt landed.
Right now, well, there's several guys, but after hearing Coach talk in his press conference today, I'm rather interested in Solomon DeShields. This is a player who's played multiple positions in high school. I was thinking he was going to be a linebacker or safety, but then Coach said he's going to start out on offense at wide receiver. 6'1", 210 pounds, 3 stars out of Millville, New Jersey, Pam.
Home of Mike Trout.
I was going to say, this guy might end up being the most famous guy ever out of Millville by the time it's all said and done. The thing
no offense, Solomon.
The thing that stuck out to me, you could see the physicality of this kid whenever you put on the tape, and Coach talked about it. This kid just looks just very broad, just very physical, strong. It sounds like he's somebody, I didn't necessarily think he was going to contribute necessarily right away, but the way Coach is talking about it, it sounds like he's pretty excited about him. And something to note, he's going to be one of 7 players that will be enrolling early in the spring. So we'll be able to get a good look at this kid in just a couple of months.
That's super exciting if you can get an explosive athlete. We'll see, of course, how all these players pan out, but you're going to have to wait for most of them. But what about those insta-tight ends, Vince? Those guys are going to get plugged in and have to, the bar is pretty low for what they have to do compared to what happened this year, but Pitt's going to be playing Daniel Moraga, Lucas Kroll pretty much right out of the gate.
Lucas Kroll for sure. I would say both these guys, considering there's only 2 other tight ends on the roster right now. And then you add these 2 guys here, Lucas Kroll, big kid out of Florida. Now, Pam, this guy, he was a baseball player at Arkansas originally, and then he ended up at Florida, and he'll be a graduate transfer. He's only going to have one season eligibility. It worked out pretty well with Kyla Johnson last year, a one-year player from Florida. So I hope we have that same kind of success. And Daniel Morgan, 6'4", 240 pounds, out of your backyard, Alan, Ventura, California. Community college, junior college transfer there, originally at Fresno State, and then went to junior college for a year. We're going to have 2 years of eligibility here for this kid. These guys, they're big, they're athletes, and if they could catch the ball, Pam, they could contribute right away, I would say.
Yeah, why is it that it seems like Pitt goes to the tight end, to the transfer market a lot for tight end?
They haven't been able to recruit any.
I feel like that might have been happening before Narduzzi a little bit.
Yeah.
No?
It might be the nature of the position of a tight end, too. I mean, maybe you recruit a guy at tight end and then, like, wasn't Brian O'Neill supposed to be a tight end, or was he supposed to be?
He was supposed to be a tight end.
Yeah, maybe because how their bodies develop as they get older.
Well, I'll say this. A couple years ago, he had 3 tight ends in his class, and 2 of them left school for one reason or another. It just seems like they haven't been able to recover from that at the position. I'm hoping big things from Kai Wright, who redshirted this past season. I'm hoping, the kid's supposed to be a tremendous athlete, and as soon as he, gets to kind of up to snuff here, hopefully next year that he'll be able to contribute.
Was he a freshman last year?
He was a freshman this past year. He redshirted. I'm excited to see what he could bring to the table next year.
So the Insta tight ends, guys getting opportunities there at that position, coming in with this recruiting class. And then I had a question, Vince, for you on this linebacker, Bangali Kamara out of Akron. 3-star recruit. Am I looking at his measurements right? Is he a 6'2", 293-pound linebacker?
200? I think you're about 100 pounds too heavy. 193 pounds out.
193-pound linebacker. It's pretty small.
Yeah, but I those heights and weights. I mean, those could be old that I have on my list here.
Were they measuring this kid? Were they measuring this kid as a freshman in high school?
Yeah, well, I'll say this: this kid's very explosive, an excellent running back in high school, and offered by several Big Ten schools, Michigan State, Minnesota, Penn State. So it's going to be very interesting to see. What I like, Pam, about this is that there seems to be more building of depth at the linebacker position. So you're not counting on these guys to come in and play immediately.
Yeah, the linebacker position seemed to be well this year. The one position I think we should jump to is the running backs. There's only one guy in this class that they recruited.
Yes, and that's one that I guess we're going to continue to wait and see, because there might be one added, but the word on Israel Abanikanda out of Brooklyn, Vince, is that he might just be enough as the only running back recruit, even though Pitt's still out on one more.
Yeah, it seems like he may be the only one. Henry Parrish, who was committed to Pitt for the longest time, and his recruitment has just really blown up during the fall season. Yeah, a 4-star running back out of Miami. Just last week reopened his recruiting, although he had probably been looking around for quite a bit. I would not put any stock in him signing with the Panthers in February. He did not sign anywhere as far as I know. But we're going to focus on this guy we do have here, Israel Abanikanda. Alan, if he is as good as Israel Adesanya, I think we have a tremendous player here. 5'10", 5'11", 196 pounds out of Brooklyn, New York, a 3-star player, one of the top 5 players in the state of New York. This kid, I've watched his tape, very excited. He's got a lot of explosiveness. He's going to be another player that's going to be enrolling early in January. And Alan, with how up and down that running back position was this year, you got to think that this kid's going to have an opportunity to get out there and try to take control of that backfield.
Apparently there's just a high level of trust you have to reach in the Mark Whipple offense in order to get some kind of feature back status. At least that's what it looked like this whole season. So Abanikanda comes in here, and you got to think he has an opportunity because the other guys just haven't impressed the coaches, it seems. They didn't feel like they trusted any of them to kind of carry the load on a consistent basis, sometimes at all. And my question here then, Vince, is if you're relating him to Israel Adesanya, what does style bending on a football field look like? Does that mean that this guy's going to be a power runner and a burner both at the same time? Can we see one of the elite running backs coming in here from Brooklyn?
I've been thinking about that over the past couple of weeks, and I'm still not quite sure what that means, but I'm very excited to see it. I'll tell you something right now. In the spring game, this is one player I am definitely going to have my eye on.
Is he enrolling early?
Yes, he is.
That's awesome. And there's your running back, your one running back in this class. A couple of offensive linemen, too, big. I mean, one gigantic human being and another very tall, lanky human being who, I mean, at 6'7", 285, Branson Taylor, I mean, do you think they might give that kid a look at tight end? I don't know what kind of athlete he is, but that sort of size makes you think maybe he could be a super tall tight end.
I don't know about that, Alan, but I think they're going to definitely try to put
285 at 6'7" sounds athletic to me.
Yeah, they're going to put some pounds on this guy. I'll tell you that.
Not the other guy. You need on Michael Statham. You do not need to. He's 340 pounds, 6'7" out of Baltimore.
Yeah,
he actually played high school in Delaware, though.
Did he?
Yeah.
There you go. I really like this. Two just big behemoth guys that are ready to just line up and move people. Something Pitt struggled with this year. Now, I don't expect to see these guys for another couple years on the field. But by then, I think they're going to be finely tuned athletic machines ready to just go out there and steamroll some people.
And we talked a little bit about defensive backs earlier with Javonte Royal. You also throw in Hunter Sellers. You talked Solomon DeShields, who probably is going to be on the offensive side now that coach said that, Vince. And then the one I'm also excited about is Buddy Mack, because anytime you get a guy who is also being recruited by military schools, that you got to imagine he's a disciplined individual. Buddy Mack had offers from Navy and the Air Force. Also, Pitt stole him from WVU, so that's an added bonus, and he'll be going in there, and I guess they're talking safety for him, 6'2", 185 pounds.
Yeah, they are talking safety, and Pam, this kid plays with a lot of controlled aggression is kind of what I would say. Very physical, could be very explosive, hits very hard out there on the football field, but also very disciplined.
That's what this team needs, some discipline.
I mean, they're fine. They're not one of the worst penalized teams and worst with turnovers in the nation. Yeah, that's definitely what Pitt needs. I'm more so on the offensive line. Don't get me started again. Let's just keep talking about players who haven't committed illegal shifts yet, Pam. Also, we have hit the defensive backs, the defensive line. We talked Dayon Hayes, super excited, from Westinghouse, and then also Emmanuel Belgrave, who is 6'3", 225 out of Miami. Also had offers from Nebraska, Rutgers, and Wake Forest, Vince. Three defensive ends on the D line there.
Yeah, and what the nice thing is that the depth at defensive line right now for Pitt is so deep that we can afford to redshirt these guys, and then maybe the following year or the year after, they'll be ready to contribute. They'll have more mature bodies, and they'll be ready to get out there and get after it. And we've seen with Coach Partridge on the defensive line, he's doing an excellent job with these kids. He could teach them good technique, and they'll be ready in time.
And we've hit almost all of the recruits here, except looks like we haven't talked A.J. Roberts, who's also there in the linebacker class with Bengali Kamara. Pitt got a Staten Island player and a Brooklyn player. Narduzzi going after New York City kids.
Yeah, very interesting. And those are also two guys that are going to be enrolling early. I guess we should go over that here. The two tight ends that we talked about, Roberts and DeShields and Mack also going to be enrolling early. Abanaconda is enrolling early, and as well as one of the wide receivers, Aiden Hanningham, out of another Florida player. This guy I'm not sure how this guy is only rated 3 stars with some excellent offers from Auburn, Florida, Kentucky, Mississippi State, Ohio State, South Carolina. This kid looks like somebody that's got a ton of athleticism and could be somebody that could contribute early because, as many receivers as Pitt has on this roster, there hasn't been many that have really been able to step up and take control of things. We saw Shockey Jock Louis. We saw Jared Wayne, 2 of the younger guys that got some playing time this year. But other than that, not too many.
Don't forget Trey Tipton got taken out of commission too.
Yeah, early on. Yeah. Wide receiver is definitely a position of need. So it'll be interesting to see if some of these guys can contribute early on.
Yeah, that another position, just like we talked about running back, wide receiver, probably some opportunity there to step in. That's the interesting thing, right, about Narduzzi and his staff. Really, they give opportunities to young receivers and running backs, and well, I guess they did it with a quarterback, but every other position, if you really got to build your way into some playing time. Maybe, you potentially see any freshman possibly getting on the field. You said, Vincent, defensive back, possibly with Royal or Buddy Mack. You think maybe get some PT next year?
I think it's possible, and I would say there, and I would say receiver are, two where we could see some true freshmen really getting out there. And another receiver that's possible that we haven't talked about yet has not signed his letter of intent as of this live on tape recording, but hopefully will on Thursday. And Coach kind of alluded to this, Jordan Addison out of Frederick, Maryland, receiver. This guy had some offers from Notre Dame, Michigan, Virginia Tech, 3 stars from Rivals.com. This kid's an excellent athlete as well. He's by enrolling early. Addison not enrolling early, excuse me, but another guy that has the kind of athleticism, if he could jump in and pick up things quickly in the fall, he's going to have a chance to get some playing time.
And last thing we have here on our recruiting sheet here, Vince, is the defensive tackle Tim Brown, 6'4", 260-pounder out of Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, offers from a lot of places, but crazy legal trouble. Charged with robbery, felony battery, kidnapping, and in Florida. So I guess waiting for the legal process to play out before that whole situation with that player gets taken care of, if at all. There's some other schools that have offers out to him as well.
Yeah, a lot of just not good stuff. No other way to say that. But I will say this: coaches have been down to visit this kid over the past month. So it sounds like they're really doing their due diligence here, and they'll be determining within the next couple months, whether this kid deserves a second chance, and we'll see what the legal process brings on that. He may not even be eligible, to sign with the college. Who knows? If he's not, defensive tackle could be a position where Pitt's got to go out and find somebody because he was the only one that was committed at the time.
Sole big man on the defensive line that they had lined up. But I got to say, Pam, I hope that's not the only way Pitt can get a recruit from, beat out these other schools for a recruit. Offers from Auburn, Florida, FSU, Ole Miss, and Penn State. I just hope that's not the only way Pitt can get a guy, beat out those schools for a recruit, is by him maybe losing stock because he kidnapped somebody. That's not a good look.
No, not at all. But we did say Aiden Henningham did have some good offers, wide receiver, Auburn, Florida, Kentucky, Mississippi State. And Javante Royal, Georgia, Florida, Florida State. So a number of guys on Pitt's board has had some good offers, a number of SEC offers as well, which you always like to see since that's always consistently the best conference. with some of the best defenses as well.
Yeah, but see, if you're a Pitt recruit, if Pitt's out to you, and so is one of those SEC schools, what you also have to think about is getting a solid education and playing for a coach that is willing to go for it at the goal. Wait, never mind. I don't want to go. Okay, never mind.
All seriousness, maybe some of these guys know that they'll see the field more likely at Pitt than being the 15th string wide receiver at Florida or an Auburn as well.
You're right. There's a lot of opportunity.
Look at someone like Tyler Boyd.
Exactly. A lot of opportunity, and it's not like you can't get to the NFL playing for the Pitt Panthers. Makes a lot of sense. And, you know, Narduzzi hasn't won a bowl game yet, but he's churning out some NFL talent, NFL caliber talent. So hopefully these recruits are considering that whenever they send in their commitment sheets via fax or PDF or whatever they do these days. That it, Vince, in terms of recruiting this week?
I think that goes over all the recruits that we did get. Now, it's important to keep in mind that this is just the first signing period.
Early,
we'll have one,
yes.
We'll have one again in February. Real quick, just want to go over, everybody's thoughts here about what the Panthers need to add to their class and kind of finish that out. Quarterback, Alan. No quarterback taken. Coach did talk about this today at his press conference and kind of said, we're not going to just take somebody just to take them. And, they were in on some kids, but, at the end of the day, did not sign anybody. I don't want to take somebody just for the sake of taking them, although taking a quarterback in every class seems very important to me.
Yeah, I mean, I feel is a bad look. Even if it's a quarterback that you're not excited about or you really are never even planning on playing, just the fact that you have one coming in, it just looks good. That if you're a recruit out there and see Pitt didn't bring in a quarterback this year, what's that say to you as a quarterback, high school quarterback looking for a college to play? I mean, it just looks like that the position's not a priority or something for Pat Narduzzi.
Well, I wouldn't. I'm not that concerned about it, and I used to think that bringing one every year you had to, so you didn't get in a situation where it was like, oh my God, we don't have enough guys here. But there's so many kids that are out there that are transferring, especially graduate transfers, immediate eligibility. I mean, you could just look at the playoffs here. LSU and Oklahoma, they got 2 graduate transfers starting for them. One of them was a Heisman Trophy winner.
You're talking about Joe Burrow and Jalen Hurts like they're the Illinois quarterback who was just tired of playing at Illinois or something. Those are elite guys. The other situations you don't want to be in are like what Florida State stealing a mediocre, if that, quarterback from Wisconsin this year. I mean, that's what you don't want to be in. I don't want that.
Wrong way. I was thinking of Chad Wojcik, but he was here and then he transferred.
The other dude who went and played at Kansas from Pitt.
Yeah. Well, Alan, it wasn't that long ago that LSU was starting guys at quarterback like that Danny Etling kid. And then and it's not like Joe Burrow was some huge coup for Edge Ogeron. And then last year, people were still questioning down in the Bayou whether he was going to be the guy or not. And then he just had this amazing season. So there are quarterbacks out there to be had. So I'm not too concerned about this, and we still do have 3 scholarship quarterbacks on the roster, and with a limited scholarship class, I'm not too concerned about it. Especially also when we've only signed 2 offensive linemen at this point, big guys. They can maybe make up for additional offensive linemen. They got that kind of size. But still, I think we need more quality players on the offensive line. We could never have enough offensive line.
Yeah, I'd like to see maybe a graduate transfer or someone from community college on the offensive line.
Really?
Yeah, get some more depth in there.
I just want to see someone who knows how to line up, not hold, not put an illegal hand to the face, and not false start.
I want someone with some experience.
Okay. Yeah. All right, so Pitt was very young this year on the offensive line. They're going to be bringing 3 starters back, plus a couple other guys that played a lot. Do you really feel that there's an immediate need at offensive line?
I think depth, and it's a position that injuries could happen as well.
So
I think they need some depth there, yeah. Guys that are already developed.
Do you think that is more important right now than bringing in another guy and grooming him to eventually be at that point? So Nolan Eluzio, who they brought in as a graduate transfer here, played right tackle the whole season for the most part, didn't have the best of season.
You're cherry picking one example. Well, I'm just saying, if you just asked me what position, I think maybe a more experienced offensive lineman that can stay still might be helpful.
I agree. I'm with you, Pam.
You got me there. I don't know. I've felt over the past several years that these offensive line recruits can be very good. I understand that there were not, 4 and 5 star players in this group, but I felt with the right coaching and the right talent evaluation out of high school, I thought that these offensive linemen eventually could be very good. Unfortunately, this year we kind of had a lot of them that were very young all at the same time. But I'm really expecting some nice things out of this offensive line.
I hope you're right there. I hope you're right there, Vince, because that's what you're banking on here. Not bringing in not having any other kind of, like Pam said, experienced offensive linemen in the mix next year. They're all these guys who went through these growing pains, and hopefully that's all it was this year. That's what.
And you lose your center in Jimmy Morrissey, right?
No, he will be back.
He'll be back.
Yeah.
Now at the same time, Pam. But what I do agree with, if there is a very good transfer offensive lineman out there, I think you absolutely you got to explore that. But overall, I think we're in agreement that we do need a couple more offensive line.
Yeah, and I think overall what I learned most importantly here with all of our recruiting talk is that Pitt is just one Joe Burrow away from having the Heisman Trophy winner and being number 1 in the nation.
Yeah. Maybe you could say that, Todd.
All it takes in college football these days is just one grad transfer quarterback and maybe a ton of money from boosters and bagmen like LSU has. But Pitt is doing a solid job otherwise in terms of getting the backbone of the team in place, where Pat Narduzzi is going to keep on, I feel, having good defenses. Hopefully a running game will appear next season, and excited to see Kenny Pickett again, actually, because I thought at the end, well, not the very end, but right before the very end, Pam, Kenny Pickett had some moments.
Yeah, he definitely did. I'm interested to see, we'll talk about it in our next episode about the bowl game, but how he finishes, if he can go out on a high note and carry some of that momentum into the offseason.
And in terms of recruiting, look at for Kenny Pickett here, Vince. Kenny Pickett's going to get to close out his career not ever worrying whatsoever about any kind of incumbent guy pushing him for his job at all.
It's interesting to think about that. I mean, I don't know if I necessarily want to say that Nick Patty and Davis Bevel cannot overtake him, but it seems a little unlikely, but maybe it could.
It's I'd say highly unlikely, but you never say never. Who knows what will happen over the course of the offseason. Maybe Mark Whipple will fall in love with Bevel or Patty, but right now Kenny Pickett gets to be the man another year and not have to worry about Pitt having one of those pesky quarterback recruits coming in. Let us know what you think of the recruiting class at H2P Show. The early signing period come and gone. February will be the next one. At H2P Show, of course, on Twitter and Instagram, or our brand new Panther line. Until they tell us not to use that for copyright issues. 412-407-3387. That's 412-407-3387. All right, there you go. The Pat signal is out, and hopefully more to come. Henry Parrish, change your mind, man. Quit looking around. Follow the cathedral. How about some hoops now, Pam? Starting with the men. The Northern Illinois game. It was raining in the Peterson Event Center.
Yeah, I missed the first half of this game. I had to work, but I was following it live on social media, and it wasn't looking good for the Panthers for a little bit there. They trailed most of the game. They were down pretty significantly early on due to some bad shooting, and they end up being 4 of 17 from 3-point, which isn't going to win you a lot of games in the ACC.
It's
It
about
barely
when. It's about when you make those
correct.
3-pointers.
But even if they hit them all at the end of the ACC, it might just be in garbage time if they're shooting that poorly there. But McGowan's led this team, really carried them with 18 points down and led them down the stretch there.
Champagny had a pretty nice game too. I mean, he was smashing it into the hoop on some alley-oops and some breakaways, Vince. A little bit of the bubbly for the Panthers, who, were trailing a lot, but I thought showed some resilience, at least in that game, pulling away. I mean, they went on a hell of a run at the end of that game to just take over.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, and this is always a weird time. You know, you're coming right off of finals week.
Oh, man. Waiting for grades. You're
not really getting practices with the whole team. So it's always a weird game. So the fact that you came out of it with a win, especially for this team, if you're coming out with a win, there's not too much I could complain about at this point.
So the Pitt men's basketball team, in terms of the schedule, not quite to that ACC schedule. Remember, January 4th, it all begins with Wake Forest. 2 more before that, though. And this coming Friday, so, it might have already happened by the time you listen to this, depending on when you listen to the show. But Friday the 20th, the Pitt Panthers will be taking on Binghamton at home. And then after the holidays, it'll be Canisius at home on a Monday afternoon. And then New Year's and January 4th, Wake Forest. That's the men's schedule. The women have some games coming up, but we got to look back at that moment. You spotlighted earlier, Pam. Kyla Nelson rejoining the team after a cancer scare. Super awesome to see. I remember I was in a class last semester, and we were doing stuff, broadcasting, looking at like tape of the women's basketball team and interviews, and everybody was talking about Kyla Nelson's struggle that she was going through at the time with cancer. So we all put together and sent her a card, and I'll tell you this, she had a ton of support, and she was really made it clear, right when she was diagnosed, that she was, going to fight to be back this season. And I don't think anybody doubted her, Pam, and there she was returning for the Panthers this past week.
Yeah, she had a tumor on her appendix. She even had a part of her colon removed, she said in an interview last night. The game was on ACC Network, so we watched it here in this household. Very inspirational. Her surgery wasn't until October 6th, I believe, or first week of October. So she was talking about just getting her legs back under her. She played in 2 to 3 minute stints there. And she finished with 13 minutes. And going into this year and last year, Nelson was a good shooter for this Panthers team. So I feel like once she gets her legs back and continues to get back in game shape here, which is going to take some time, but she did great last night. She talked about before the game, even just getting back on the court was going to be good. She was a little worried about her conditioning, but she did great, and I think she'll be able, once she gets her shot back and gets her legs back under her, be that 3-point shooter that the Panthers really need here.
Legit need. They struggle from deep, and she is, I would say, their best 3-point shooters returning now.
Yeah, by far.
And that'll hopefully help them avoid losses like the one they just had. Although they put up 71, which. It might be. That's close to their high for the season, isn't it, Pam? I think they had 80 in a win earlier this year, but that's pretty high.
Yeah, and they were without Aisha Bug as well, who is their leading scorer, and you really saw them struggle on the defensive end as well, but also on the offensive end. There was no help for Gabby Green. She had I believe, a career high or season high, 23 points, but Aisha Bug not being there didn't give them that secondary scoring option. She was out with a hand contusion. All reports indicate that was super, super precautionary. What you liked to see in this game was the Panthers trailed by 19 at one point, and they were able to come back. What really hurt them was a tough second quarter. They just could not get anything going, and Miami made a little run there, Miami of Ohio. It was 18-5 in the second quarter there.
So the Panthers fail to get their fourth win of the season against Miami of Ohio. Their next opportunity at victory will be at Cincinnati, and hopefully some revenge also for the volleyball loss too. Think about that. December 21st, that's this coming Saturday, and then ACC play begins the 30th for them at North Carolina on December 30th. That's Pitt women's basketball, Pitt men's basketball. I saw Coach Capel at an Apple store, Vince, but my phone was getting worked on, so sorry, couldn't get the selfie with him. But he looked happy for the holidays. I didn't want to bug him. He looked like he was buying a computer. Hopefully a present for somebody. Hopefully not for a recruit. It
was probably for one of his kids.
I assumed. It is the
What kind of computer was it?
Well, I mean, a Mac, obviously. It was at the Apple store.
A laptop?
Oh, no, it was one of those big all-in-ones, giant screen. All right, are you ready to hear what they're saying on the internet, on the Pitternet here? I don't know. They can be using their phones or Macs or PCs, but they're talking Pitt Panthers, Pam.
Yeah, I can't wait. Let's go.
All around the Pitternet we go.
Can you explain what internet is?
I hear there's rumors on the internets.
And to all those faceless keyboard warriors on Twitter.
But we're a good darn football team. I'm proud of these guys.
This first one comes from Reddit. And these are all from Reddit this week because it was very active with Pitt Panther talk. This one's from user Bars Pub talking Cruton, who said, I live in Warner Robins, Georgia, and work with Jalen Barden's dad. He's a 4-star wide receiver. Y'all are getting a heck of a football player. Kid has great hands and elite speed. His pops said Tennessee came on late, but they love Pitt. He's signing today. That's from user Bars Pub, Vince.
You gotta like hearing that, a first-hand account.
I like whenever people go to Reddit to tell them that I worked with a guy's dad and he's going to be special for you. That's very nice of you. Don't have to do that. But
no, you don't.
I mean, I don't know if this user Bars Pub roots for Pitt, but he's getting Pitt people hyped, and I appreciate that. Especially on the toxic internet.
It sounds like he's just a huge Jalen Barden fan, and I can't blame him.
I'm looking forward to being one as well. This next one comes in response to Pat Narduzzi's quote where he said, we've reached an ACC championship. Our goal is not just to get there. Our goal is to get there and win the thing. And Pam, a user on Reddit, CXM1060, did not really like that at all. He had something to say about that, saying, oh, man, this is bad. What a load of hot air. Nards guarantees ACC title. How about winning 9 games first, then talking bigger picture? Why wouldn't you want the coach to say we want to win an ACC title game?
Exactly. What? It's not like they were playing Clemson the next week and saying we're going to beat them next week for the title. I have no problem with what Narduzzi said. I'd rather my coach say, yeah, we're going to win, as opposed to, we're going to shoot for 9 wins, probably end up around 7. We'll see what happens.
We're looking somewhere in the 7 to 9 range this year. I don't know, whatever comes.
I have no problem with what Narduzzi said.
If you ask any coach in America, what's your goal for the season? They're going to say win the league, win the conference. That's ridiculous.
We just want to make it to a bowl game. New Mexico's really nice. We'd like to get to that one. Maybe Detroit again. I think maybe this has something to do with how Reddit put the kibosh on bashing Narduzzi this week. So
there was a lot of talk on this comment on Reddit. I noticed that too.
Yeah, CXM's 1060 took this opportunity to maybe circumvent that rule, calling it a load of hot air. I think you are just loaded with hatred for Nards there, CXM, and you need to check yourself and expect your coach to want to win championships. I mean, come on. It's just common sense. Last one here on the Pitternet comes from every Pitt student on our Pitt saying, where the F are my grades? And I'm in there with them. Where are my grades? They were supposed to be out 2 days ago. I don't have them all yet, Pam, and I'm sitting here on the edge of my seat waiting for results.
That's terrible. Terrible waiting game.
The waiting's the hardest part. I want to know, are the straight A's here? Did we get them or not? See, what would you think if at the beginning of this coming semester, Vince, I said, I've gotten straight A's before, I want to get them again. Would you say that that's bogus and I should just root for maybe a 3.0?
No, you should always root for.
You got to root for a championship. Root for perfection.
Exactly. All right. Well, hopefully everybody gets their grades by the time they listen to this episode. I know I haven't gotten mine as of the live on tape recording. Now we went from, as we do, the imaginary world of the internet, and now let's go to real life, Vince, what they're talking about all over town, from Oakland to Greenfield, all the way out there up towards Zelienople. They're talking about Pitt going into the bowl game, and of course reacting to the early signing period.
Yeah. This may not be like the South where schools are canceled and jobs are shut down because of signing day, but there's still people talking about it around here, and I can't wait to hear what they have to say.
Another Saturday coming, and the Panthers are playing. Time to find out what the answers are saying.
Yeah, I ain't ever heard any of these kids. Why can't we get more kids out of WPIL?
I know that. I mean, all you got to do is recruit all them kids from Woodland Hills and Central Catholic, maybe a couple from TJ, one from Aliquippa, and we'd win the whole national championship easy.
Yeah, that's why I like Coach Wonstadt. He was going to build a wall around Western Pennsylvania.
Yeah, it's a shame they fired him, but they get Churpacker or maybe get Bob Palco to come out to Pitt. I mean, on the staff at least, and the kids around here will be coming and they'll win it all.
Ella Pitt.
What the answers are saying.
So that's what the Insers are saying. Like him or not, Dave Wonstadt was always getting some of the best WPIAL players. Can't ever dispute that. But we are going to be talking about this huge bowl game, Pitt, Eastern Michigan, in next week's episode. Make sure you look for that early in the week. But right now, Alan, we're going to be talking about two of the biggest games in the country, these college football semifinals.
Oh, college football playoff. When we return for our regularly scheduled programming, we will have seen, I'm hoping, the two best semifinals ever, with LSU taking on the player that they could never beat in Jalen Hurts in Oklahoma, and then Clemson and Ohio State. Never been more jacked for a college football semifinal, and I hope it never goes to 8 games, because when we get the 4 that belong there, and that's what we got this year, it is perfection. And gotta admit, I'm rooting for a Tigers versus Tigers final, Pam. That's what I want to see.
That's what I want to see as well. Come on, Clemson. Come on, LSU. One thing I want to talk about in the LSU-Oklahoma game, the over-under is 60 or 76 in that game, and I've heard reports that that number for the over-under can even rise a little bit.
Really?
These teams are going to come out. There's a lot of hope that they're going to come out with and score a lot of points as well. Oklahoma's offense early on came out looking sharp, and they've scored points throughout the year. They haven't looked as sharp in those first few games as they did in those first few games. And we all know the Joe Burrow machine with Coach O. I'm so excited. LSU is favored at the Westgate by 13.5. I think it's a big number there. I think it's going to be a little closer than 13.5. Not much. I think LSU is going to take care of business here against Oklahoma, even though it's going to be probably like a 12-point game in my mind. I think it's still going to be exciting.
I think it's going to be close for a couple quarters, maybe. LSU is going to pull away and dominate. That Oklahoma defense just doesn't have, I don't even think what Texas had bringing that into the game against LSU. And that was back when LSU was still figuring themselves out. They are well oiled right now, Vince. And they still got guys out there that are trying to they're competing against each other for NFL draft stock. That's how good this team is.
Yeah, they are very good, just across the board. In this game, Oklahoma, I hear what you're saying, Alan, about Jalen Hurts, somebody that LSU hasn't beaten. They got some good players on offense, specifically CeeDee Lamb, but this defense is still not great for Oklahoma. And we've seen LSU this year; they will not take their foot off the gas, and they will just keep coming. I don't think Oklahoma has enough kind of in the tank to go 60 minutes with this team, unless Lincoln Riley has some very, very elaborate coaching scheme that we don't know about. I was surprised to see this number opened at 10 at the Westgate. It's risen up to 4 points a lot of places. I just don't see how LSU can lose this game. They just across the board, they're just too good for Oklahoma. They would have to play really bad, I think, to lose this.
I'm telling you, they have. Joe Burrow is great this year, but we're really talking about a team that might have 4 NFL wide receivers, maybe more. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is ridiculous. And Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, Terrence Marshall, Dodie Anderson's big, tall, gigantic ass in there too. This team is so loaded on offense, and Oklahoma has shown this year that they just have to outscore teams to have a shot. I mean, this is an overwhelming matchup on paper, but anything can happen when Jalen Hurts is taking on LSU. That's the one.
Well, think about. I don't know about that. Just think about this, though. The defensive backs for LSU are so much better than anything Oklahoma has played all year. These guys aren't going to be able to get as open easily, and Jalen Hurts is not the quarterback to make those kind of tight throws. He's going to have to win this game on his own.
Yeah.
But
that's why I think Jalen Hurts can keep it close. If it's close, it'll all be because of him, and it's because he's using his legs, and LSU is getting maybe gassed on defense. I'm trying to think if LSU this season has played a quarterback that has the moxie of a Jalen Hurts. Now, when they took on Tua, that was, I would say, like a 25% Tua. So they did get the benefit of a banged up Tua. But
they played Sam Ehlinger.
But I don't. Do you put Sam Ehlinger on the same level of a Jalen Hurts in terms of?
I would.
I think they're both of those guys are weak sauce in the big game. I mean, Ehlinger
what about Bo Nix? Legend of Bo Nix.
That's growing. Ehlinger has been spotty at best. Fromm has just not proven it in the big game. Ehlinger is the maybe, but still, I think they all pale compared to what Jalen Hurts can do in a big moment. And who knows what kind of level he could take it to in this game. I'm just saying don't underestimate him. I'm picking LSU to win easily, but don't underestimate Jalen Hurts, especially in this moment. This is what he went to Oklahoma for. And then, of course, there's the game that will be close that is, really tough to pick because Clemson just hasn't been tested, and Ohio State's pretty much looked solid all season long, except for maybe a couple quarter and a half, Pam. They've been pretty consistent.
Yeah, a couple quarters there in the first half of the Wisconsin Big Ten championship game, and then a couple quarters there in that Penn State game. It looked like, when Fields fumbled the ball basically on the goal line, looked like they fell asleep there a few series in that game as well. But I'm excited about this game as well. This Clemson defense hasn't gotten the recognition it deserves because of the competition they played. And I think they're going to come out and they're going to shut down Hurts. Justin Fields here. I really do.
Yeah, that's where you really got to draw the big circle around the matchups, I think, Vince, right, is those quarterbacks. Because Lawrence has been there, like we're talking about, experience and moxie and all that. Justin Fields, I don't know if I could trust him in this kind of moment compared to what Trevor Lawrence showed last year.
Yeah, I certainly don't trust him. I think Dabo with close to a month to prepare will be ready for this kid. And yeah, there's a lot of great athletes on Ohio State, but this Clemson defense, like you said, Pam, is very good. They don't have the D line that Clemson had last year, but they're still
NFL picks
across the board are very good. And maybe one of the best defenses in the country. And Ohio State's defense is very good too. This could be. I see this could be a low scoring game. This 63.5 total right now. I could see this game going under. I really could. But at the end of the day, Clemson just has too much firepower, don't you think? Over Ohio State.
I think the matchup is the two running backs here, Travis Etienne and J.K. Dobbins, two of the top 5 guys in the country by any measure. And I think if Clemson can not only contain Fields, but shut down Dobbins, they'll be in great shape here. I just don't think we've seen the full potential of Clemson this season. And Dabo has this team exactly where he wants them. And no one believes in us. We started out the year as number 1. They dropped us to 3, and we didn't even lose a game. This is exactly where Dabo shines.
Yeah, us against the world. Everybody expected us to be here all season, but they doubted us at the same time. I don't know how he sells it, but he does. I actually disagree, Pam. I think these running backs are going to not cancel each other out, but I think just get canceled out by the defense. I think that these defenses are going to be good at bottling Dobbins and Etienne out. They might get plays in the passing game, I think, is where they might succeed, especially Dobbins. I could see helping Fields out a lot. But I think Fields making plays with his legs and Lawrence being fearless down the field is what I'm looking forward to in this game. And it's just, oh my goodness, like top down, the matchups, player for player. I mean, it's gorgeous on paper, and hopefully the game is as good, because this is, if you're a member on that committee, you got to be super excited. This is amazing. This is Ohio State and Clemson. Yeah. It's a game that happened a few years ago. It was a classic, and we're getting it on a gigantic stage now.
A classic 30-0 victory for the Tigers.
I'm talking about the other one, the 40 to whatever it was. I just watched it. It was from probably 2015 or 14. It was back when Sammy Watkins was at Clemson. It was like a 47-40 game or something. It was very close. Back when when Clemson just started their run.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is the primetime game for a reason. 8 p.m. Eastern start, just good on good all over.
Very tough to pick. I'm picking the Clemson Tigers to win, though, by 6. I'm going to give them by a touchdown late. Yeah,
I agree with you. I think Clemson could, and I'll tell you something right now, especially if Clemson gets up in this game, they could run away with it.
And then if it's LSU and Clemson, Pam, loser can no longer be called the Tigers.
Oh, that's a good one. I like that.
Get the chancellors of both universities to put the stipulation, make the bet, and that'll raise the stakes a little for the national title game. We could talk about that later, though. Enjoy the college football semifinals, everybody, because they are going to be good, very good. If Jalen Hurts wins, I'm going to say I kind of told you so, Vince. No, I didn't.
You'll be able to say that, I think.
Do I? I mean, I'm picking LSU, but at the same time, like Dabo at the same time is an underdog and a favorite. At the same time, I'm picking LSU, and I'm going to say I told you so when Oklahoma wins.
That's fair.
All right. Just so everyone's clear, going into this playoff, it is going to be awesome. And hopefully the Pitt Bowl game will be awesome. We're going to have an entire mini-sode previewing the Quick Lane Bowl. Pam, I cannot wait.
Yep. Hail to Pitt.
Hail to Pitt.
Hail to Pitt, everybody. We will see you next time. happy holidays, happy new year, and don't forget we got that new voicemail for you. The Panther line, 412-407-3387. Want to get that out there for everybody so you could start calling in and hailing the Pitt.